I'll see The Last of Us. And I'm going to
Last
start
of
to tell
Us.
you guys, I'm talking to the chat right now. If you don't want this episode spoiled for you, I suggest you turn around, close the door, and walk away.
Yeah, but we will be over talking about our overall perspective of it before we start like spoiling stuff. It's not going to be extra, but we will be talking about our overall perspective of the show first. So if you don't want nothing interrupted, head out the door right now. Right now, you good. But here in about 5 minutes, you ain't good.
You're
All
about to
right.
be bad. Very
So,
bad.
King,
Yes.
I'm going to let you two go first because I think me and you two, because I already talked to Tyler a little briefly about this, I think we're going to differ on this one.
Oh, I think not. Um, Anybody seen The Last of Us 2? No, James Gunn doesn't shy away from. I mean, James Gunn. Wow, I'm still stuck on James Gunn. On Neil Druckmann doesn't shy away from controversial things at all.
At
At
all.
all. Neil Druckmann is a disruptor. He's chaos stirred up in a hornet's nest and released on your face. This episode had me feeling uneasy from the very beginning of the episode to the credits going up in the episode. And I know people is going to say, "Oh, King is no. You don't know why I was uneasy." Starts off, we already know that Tess is dead, and Ellie is left with Joel, and you could tell that Joel is a little bit perturbed, that he's stuck on this situation with this kid that he doesn't know, that probably is going to turn into a monster at any damn second, that he lost the only person that was his person, that he was in charge of, to protect. And he has now this new thing that he has to care for. And he goes to eat his food and he throws his food
That
at
he
her.
low key was guilt tripped into doing. Like,
It was.
Yeah.
But what Ellie did at the very beginning of the show, the very beginning,
she set a tone for the rest of the show. You ain't blaming me.
damn right. Damn right. She damn right set that tone right there. Don't blame me for what went on. You had a choice. You wanted to get your battery or whatever the hell. And I was like, yo, I said the balls on this kid. But she was speaking facts. That part right there encapsulates the episode. And their meeting of, you tough dude, but I ain't no pushover type of kid. You're dealing, she's a different breed, a kid. But she's a kid too, so you have to look at it every 5 seconds. My wife, because I suck my teeth, and my wife is like, "Yo, she's a kid. She's never been outside. Just think about the first time you were sitting inside a car, or you was walking in a forest, or you were doing whatever. She's going to do what little kid stuff do." So, okay, that's my frustration with that. The interaction with Joe and Ellie, when she does stuff that puts herself at direct danger with Joel in the vicinity, and he's not knowing that he has to keep his eyes on kids because he hasn't had a kid around in such a long time. And he has to keep his eyes on this kid at all times because this kid is always into something. Every second of that episode, you leave her alone. She's doing something that she should not be doing. And it's bad parenting on Joe's part, but Joe doesn't want to be a parent anyway. He's like guilt tripped to be a parent, and it's just a nice dynamic when he tries to shield her from what was up the road, and her being a defiant kid brushes him off like, what, you don't think I'm tough enough to see it? You don't think I can see this? You don't think that I can handle this? And she gets a chance to see what he was trying to shield her from. But that was Joel trying to be a parent, because I guess he started softening, his heart started softening from all that crust that built around it from his daughter dying and him going through this world rough. He was trying to shield her from what they were going to see. And I thought that was touching. But she's not like his kid that passed. She's a little bit rougher. She's a little bit curse around the edges. And he has to learn this kid. And I thought that was a really good interaction between the two. I want to know your thoughts on the action just between Joel and Ellie in those brief scenes, because the episode really wasn't about them, but that interaction that they're getting to learn each other without the barrier of Tess being the mom figure there, just Joel and Ellie.
I'll let you go first, Tyler.
I love their dynamic. I played the game, big fan. I wasn't sure because he looks so much like the character. I was like, man, I don't know how this girl's going to work because she doesn't look anything like the character. But their dynamic on the show is great. And I think they both do a good job of, I've never been in a car. This is great. What can I play with? And him, you can see he's frustrated, but he's also trying to remind himself that she's never experienced anything, and I don't know how to handle this. I think their dynamic's great. I think it's one of the best parts of the show so far.
Yeah, I think it's good too. I think for the most part their chemistry is on point, and I don't think anyone can dispute that. Sure, you can dispute maybe casting was error. At this point, I am used to her as Ellie. Like it is what it is. We have to deal with it, But I do think that particular part of the episode was perfectly fine, especially that moment where she comes across. It looked like a clicker, like a messed up clicker in the basement.
But he wasn't a clicker. He didn't turn all the way yet.
Oh, okay. Half his head, so I didn't know if like the collision like knocked half of it off or something. So yeah, she wasn't making that clicking noise either. So I thought that was good. There's a lot of good moments there, and then we get to the Bill part. Now, how did you guys feel about the Bill part?
Oh, let me ask you a question. In the game, isn't Bill black?
No.
He's white.
He's white. Okay,
Yeah.
because I was confusing him with the other guy. Remember they found him in the town? The black guy that was like up in the house?
The one with his brother. Yeah.
Yeah. The sniper dude.
That's after this.
All right. Okay,
I think that's supposed to be the next episode.
Okay. I started all over again in the game. This movie show has me back at the game. Shout out to Sony for doing a great job. Because
do you think that they should have released the game after all 8 episodes debuted? Because I feel like a lot of people are a little bit down on the show in terms of we already know a lot of the story because we literally just played the game. They literally just released it again for us to play it.
No.
I don't think so. I just finished part 1 on the PS5. I just beat it Sunday before the show, and I'm so happy I played it because there's so many things I forgot.
And that's my thing. Like, I want to remember these things because, like, I just asked you. I totally forgot about this character, right? So he's a doomsday prepper, a survivalist that he calls himself, and he was right. How many times can we say these doomsday preppers or the survivalists are right? This guy was right for everything that he did, the plans that he had in place, because as soon as the military came and took the people away and started killing the people because he didn't trust the government at all his conspiracy theories were right. So he said his plan was sound, and he went right into action, fortifying his little city, his little town for himself. But the one thing he didn't count on was he was absolutely alone. That alone stuff works for but a little bit of time until you start missing interactions
We
with people.
we've seen people go crazy all the time with that alone stuff, like Castaway. Like, dude literally
Yeah.
befriended a ball. Like,
Was there nobody else showing up? So, he had everything. He had unlimited, fuel. He wasn't driving around anyway. He stayed in the town. He would just go from point A to point B. So he had enough gas. I think he drained the 2 gas stations that was in the town. He drained them, and he had enough gas to go to another town to get more gas or whatever. He had generators. He had
and he hit it quick too, like quick.
Fast. As soon as they left, he went right in because he knew he has to get there before the looters. Everything that he did was on time, spot on.
Turn the gas on, like after they turned it on.
Dude,
And you know what I like? The resourcefulness of Bill. Yes. That he was a dude of all traits. He knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly how to make his little traps. He knew where to go, what to get. He knew it's like you said, he's been living his entire life for this particular moment. The moment where he can shine. Like,
yes. But
went straight to the boat to get as much stuff as possible. No other reason. No. I'm just gonna get as much things as I possibly can.
He went to Home Depot and turned it into his home shopping center.
Yep.
He was a Renaissance man, a resourceful man. He didn't forget to go to the liquor store and get the finest wine. See, that might have been missed by people, right? He went in and got 1 case of the best wines they had there. Not liquor, wines. Expensive. And I noticed that. I was like, And the animals that he caught, he dried them out. He cut the finest meats off. He knew how to cook. I mean, this man was prepared to do end of time stuff. The military couldn't find him in the house. They didn't detect any sound waves, anything. As soon as they left,
he was ready. Out. He was ready. If they found that hatch, he was ready.
He would tore their ass up. Yeah.
Now, he wouldn't have got far, but he was ready.
They would have had to blow their house up.
Now, it would probably be one of those things. Just leave that crazy dude there. We're leaving. Like,
we got to go.
He took out 5 of us already. Nah.
So, I know everybody see me smiling. The uneasiness I told you guys that I had from the beginning of this episode until the end, till the credits went up. The uneasiness of Joel and Ellie, how that dynamic is going to work. How are they going to come to a meeting of the minds? And then the uneasiness of Bill. How he's going to get this done. I automatically take myself and put myself into his shoes. How would I do? First of all, I'm dead. All right. Run out of food. I'm dead. I didn't fortify anything. I didn't do anything that he did. Whatever. But I'm like, wow, he's alone there. And then one day, a trap. I think you should hit that spoilers, bro. I think you should put spoilers down at the bottom because this is it. This is it. You gotta leave now.
Escape the building. Go out the back door.
Leave now. Close the door.
Or be spoiled.
Walk away. This is the part where spoiler talk is coming your way. So, this trap goes off and he hears a hello? Hello? And he's looking down there. And he sees the guy, he has a gun trained on him. You hurt? Yeah, just a little bruise. I'm uneasy with the dude because I don't trust a damn soul in this movie, in this game, in this world. We've been trained enough on this game to know that everybody has an ulterior motive. We've all watched The Walking Dead. You don't trust humans. You can trust the zombies or the clickers more than you can trust the humans because you know exactly what their intentions are. And I'm like, God, this guy built this whole little town for himself. He built this whole little world. And none of this stuff ever ends well, man. This doesn't end well, man. And against my own judgment, not his, he lets the guy in the house to give him a meal. Guy takes a shower, he gives him clothes, and the guy is sitting downstairs, but he's looking at the dust in the house. He's like runs his fingers across the mantelpiece and he sees the dust. But Bill cooks for Frank. And the meal is extraordinary. And then he brings I forgot the name of the wine because it wasn't a Pinot Noir or Merlot. It was something else. It was something that only a trained palate would know. And you know, Bill was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to know that." He said, "Of course you would." Because I guess Frank saw something in Bill that I didn't see in Bill, that, you know, he was a Renaissance man, but he had a piano in the corner. And, you know, Frank gets on to the piano and he fumbles through it and he sings a song. But this is his favorite song that he picks up out of the songbook, not knowing that that's Bill's favorite song. And he, you know, Bill's like, no, not know anything but that song. And you know, Bill starts to sing the song, but when Bill closes his eyes, my heart sinks right to my stomach because I think that this guy is going to do something to Bill because I already built an attachment to the character. He survived all that stuff only to end up in this position, vulnerable with this guy in the house. And I'm like, damn it, man. Not like this, Neil. Not like this. But then he's naked inside the room in bed, and I'm
It's like that escalated very quickly. Like
that went from 0 to 60 like that. Because you know they got to a kiss, and you're trying to figure out, is it real or is it fake? I was saying it the whole time. Is it real? Is it fake? Is this a convenience lay? Come on now. How many times have you been with a situation and she don't feel like going home, so she stays, but she knows if she stays, or the same thing with you. I don't feel like going home, but I don't want to put out, but I got to put out if she wants me to stay. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, there's no food out there. He has a long walk to Boston. He's just doing whatever. No. It cuts to 6 years later, bro. I said 6. That's one hell of a one night stand. 6 years later.
Yeah, so
they married already.
Yeah, in the old government, they married for what's that law that if you're with someone
common law.
Common law, you married from common law, man. So okay, look, there's a couple things I didn't like about it. Okay,
Right.
you know, people could sit there, they could say what they want. I didn't like the way they downgraded Bill's character. To me, Bill was always a very cautious man. And there's a couple things they did that made him so less of a cautious man. For instance, when stuff popped off, Bill's shooting in the middle of the road, no cover. Just sitting out there naked. Might as well be out there dancing
so we
naked.
get into that part?
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, that's not Bill. That is not Bill. Bill never. The Bill in the game never would have got shot in that scenario unless they surrounded him.
He only got shot because Frank touched him.
No, he got shot because he was in the middle. He had no cover. He wasn't trying to take a cover. He's literally in the middle of the road, just shooting back to back, not trying to cover. No, keep in mind that sure, the other people have no cover, but if you're in a strategic advantage where you can have cover but the other people can't have cover, Bill would have chosen the cover. He wouldn't have just sat out in the middle of the road just shooting Willie like that.
Okay. I'm gonna push back on that. I'm gonna push back on that to say this. When everything popped off and Frank woke up, Bill was doing his job as a protector to keep everything away from the house, right? That's like if a large animal is coming at you or whatever, and you got your kids behind you, you're going to make yourself bigger than what you are. So he was making himself bigger by standing in the middle of the road, shooting
cap.
like, oh my God.
That's cap. Nah, that's cap.
I hear you.
Like, I could understand if Frank was there. He was behind him and he was defending him. He was in front of him, but he wasn't.
He didn't want Frank to be there. That's why he didn't wake Frank up.
But no, it's not that. It's the fact that isn't Bill's character.
But this is the character of the show.
I get that. I get that. Here's my issue with the King.
Go ahead.
They were so close to magnifying one for one the entire show so far in those first 2 episodes. And in this one, they assassinated Bill. They might as well have assassinated him. Now, people can sit there and say, oh, you're homophobic. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't mind the episode. I thought it was a great episode until certain incidences I didn't like, and I didn't like the fact that Bill ultimately ended up doing a Romeo and Juliet thing on himself at the end. I didn't like that.
Wait a second, we ain't get there yet.
Okay, hold up. Nah, I'm laying it all out there. I'm putting the whole junk on the table, man. That's what's going on here. I was just personally felt like I think that they wanted to highlight Bill as being gay more than they wanted to highlight him in the actual Last of Us universe. And that's how I personally feel. I personally feel if this episode would have been fine, King and Tyler, if there was an episode after it that he didn't die and they did the stuff that was in the game.
No, he needed to die.
But no, here's my thing. Okay, Bill was he was a broken man in the game. But they don't really go in a lot of detail of why he was like that. I thought this episode was highlighting the years he had with Frank, and ultimately losing Frank is why he was like that in the game.
Well, check it out. All right. I hear your jadedness, and I'm throwing it away. Because Frank was what Bill needed. Listen, Bill was the protector. Bill had all the ingenuity, all the know-how. Frank was all the subtle. When you looked at the house after Frank got there for those 6 years, there wasn't no dust on the mantelpiece.
That's not the issue, though. The issue
But
isn't that. It's, okay,
you got off your joint. When they had their argument and Frank goes outside, it was argument because he wanted to paint to decorate the neighborhood.
See, but that is Bill's character, and I don't mind that part. That part was
I'm
Bill.
I'm giving you why Bill was in the middle of the street. I'm gonna give you the thought process.
First off, I apologize. We're going late this shit. We just had a lot of stuff to talk about this.
Don't worry. This is about to be over soon. Without Frank reaching out, we don't get Tess. We don't get Joe there.
Facts.
Because Bill would never have done it.
Facts.
And Bill sat there with the gun out the whole time. Didn't release his guard. Didn't do anything because he is the protector.
Did you notice how Joe was like?
House.
Joe was sitting there and he's like, get that gun out of my face. Did you notice that? Like, you could tell Bill wasn't scared of him, but he respected him at that moment. He was like, you know what? You right. Like,
so he said that much. He said, let them do what they doing. And they did it respectfully after they went inside the house and he showed the house off. Because, listen, you got to have balance. Frank brought balance to Bill. All right. Him outside shooting in the middle of the street, he was protecting his block. He was protecting his house. He was protecting his mate. He was protecting his love because he didn't have purpose before then. Remember, He was just surviving. He was a survivalist. So everything is popping off, and he has all the distractions going off. They don't know how many people's there, but they do see that crazy MF in the middle of the road with the shotgun or the rifle popping off. So either you're gonna get burnt up or shot up, but you're gonna get the hell up out of here. So when Frank comes behind, because Bill probably thought he can clear this up before Frank even wakes up. So when Frank comes behind, he looks over to Frank like, "Did you get hit? Is something wrong?" And he took his eyes off the prize for 1 second and got wounded. I'm thinking Bill is gonna die. I'm thinking that's it. He said, "I'm getting cold." But then the next scene,
it's like 10 years later or something like that.
Yeah,
and he's got like, you know what I honestly thought was gonna happen? I don't know about you guys. I thought that something was gonna happen, and there was gonna be an incident where Frank's like, "Are you okay?" And then he was gonna get shot in the head or something.
Yeah.
And then it was going to pan out, and then you'll see Joe coming to Bill's house, and that's how Frank died. Like, people in the chat, look, I get it. Frank didn't like Bill in the actual game. I get that. But it's like, look, at the end of the day, all that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I don't mind them making them closer in the TV show. I just mind the character assassination and making Bill do stuff that he would not have done in the game. And it would be different if they changed drastic stuff up until now. But they've been very one-to-one. Even scenes from the game to the TV show saying word by word what was said in the game. That's my issue.
I hear you. And I'm gonna let you go, Tyler. But I just got to get my balls off because Attic is grinding my gears. When they switched off and he's in the wheelchair, we don't know what the hell happened. But Frank is looking worse for wear, and Bill's looking a little bit better, and they're caring for each other. But it was a little thing that I noticed. They were waiting for the song on the radio from them. Remember in the first episode where he was like, they're waiting for something to come across the radio. Did you hear anything? Or whatever chatter. And at the end of that episode, you heard the song playing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the same song that was playing here.
Yeah, so it was Bill that was sent out the
right.
The song.
Well, Bill or Frank. And the song was a danger song.
Well, at that time, Frank
wrong.
probably couldn't move. It probably was Bill. So
right. So it was a danger song. If something went wrong, they would hear that song play on the radio, and they would know that it's not safe to go there or whatever, right? And I was like, "Oh snap!" So I mean, I caught it, and I felt very good about myself that I'm paying attention. But you have a problem with the suicide. I don't. He had no more purpose. The person that you have is right there. You got to make a decision right there, right now, in this decision right now. I don't know if you're going to believe in God in this moment or not. I don't know if you're going to believe because the world went to S that you have no hope. But at this moment, that person that has been your person for over the last 16 years, they want you to help them check out. That's a hard pill to swallow. And then you're left with, I'm going to be by myself? To do that again? No. He did the only logical thing that you could do in this dystopian world.
I feel you, but I'm still saying Cap.
So we had this same conversation earlier. And at first, I kind of agreed with him. I was like, man, I hate that ending because I love the interaction between Bill and Ellie in the game.
Right.
It's great. It's awesome. I think the one thing that both Attic and I didn't think about, and I thought about this after we talked, was in the game, Frank left Bill. So we're seeing Bill without his love there anymore. So the erratic, I'm going to protect it myself isn't in a relationship. He left him. So now in the show, we're seeing how he responds when he still has him. It's a whole different person.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to react completely different when you're by yourself and this person has left you and you think they're probably already dead at this point, rather than when they're still right beside you. And okay, I have to protect them at all costs. And I didn't think about that until after the fact too. But in the game, they're not together anymore. So he's gonna act a lot different than he does in the show when they're growing old together. And I think that change makes the episode a lot better
Mm-hmm.
than I initially thought, because you that it's changed so close.
You're
But
breaking up.
I said the
You're
other
breaking up.
episode.
You're botting.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
bought a little bit.
I understand ultimately where you're going with it, because I believe you and me is like mine. I thought this episode represented love in a dystopian world, and whatever love you find in whatever form it takes, you hold on to it and you protect it with all your heart. And that's what Bill did. But Bill protected Frank, and Frank brought a little bit of flavor, a little bit of life, a little bit of living in a dead world to Frank. He brought the strawberries. He traded a little gun, he said, one of the little ones, for them to have fresh strawberries. He wanted to get dressed up, eat a great meal. And it was a very key part where he told him, "Do you love me? Well, I want you to love me like I want you to love me." And I was like, wow. Wow. Because he asked him for the ultimate, to help take somebody away that is actually your all, but they're in pain, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't want to do that broken stuff. Because if you looked at it, Frank was the healthy one. Frank was the one that was jogging, getting Bill into shape. So to see him in his wheelchair, it was crushing his spirit. He's
Yeah.
not able to get around and do the stuff that he wants to do. And to see that diminished man at that point in time, Bill still loved Frank for who Frank was. And he didn't see him as a broken individual. Man, that was a serious, serious episode. Because I told you I felt uneasy from the beginning of the episode until the end. And they kept it classy. They didn't show the bodies. They showed an open window. They
Yeah, I
didn't.
think that was like a direct towards like the window in the beginning of the game too. It's like
Yeah.
I said, like I didn't mind this episode. There was things that happened in Bill's town that I just wanted to see in the show, like the school. We're not getting that anymore. Joe
Yeah.
hanging upside down. We're not getting that anymore. We're not getting the dialogue between Joe, Ellie, and Bill. There's a lot of scenarios where those were stepping stones. Did Bill's story mean anything to the main story? No, it didn't. But I will say that was a stepping stone that got Ellie and Joe trusting each other more, was the events that happened in that town. And to me, I felt like they didn't care about none of that.
I think they're going to find a different way to bridge those gaps.
I hope so.
I thought this, see this episode, because remember, I played that game twice. I don't even remember the character that much like that. But I won't ever forget this. And I think this is a way, because somebody put in the chat what they said. Somebody said, okay, hold on. The geeky nerd. This is an adaptation. The game is still there if you want that. This is the show. They're
That
raising the bar, in his opinion. And I believe that Neil went back and thought about things that he wrote, that he put down, that he wanted to do over, he wanted to have done over.
and I feel you, but when people say addict, they changed a part of the story that didn't really mean much to the overall perspective of the story. And then I push back saying, well, what did this story mean to the overall perspective of the story?
We
Like,
don't
to
know
me, you could go back and forth with that argument. Like, to me, there was more that happened in that town than just Bill.
Right.
And there was a lot of aspects that Bill was present for, but it didn't revolve around Bill. And to me, I would have wanted that to be present on screen. You know, I didn't mind this episode. I would have just have liked that Bill didn't die at the end, and the next episode was about the movements of finding the stuff for the truck and you know, going from the point to point. And I get it. I get why they did it. They wanted to broaden that story because that wasn't really talked about in the game. But we could go back to the game as well, where there's a note from Frank pretty much said he hated Bill. So it's like, you didn't just change something, you obliterated the source material to force that. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Because if you go into that standpoint, it's like there was content there. They found Frank. He hung himself in the game because he took his battery. He took Bill's battery. And to me, what we saw doesn't even remotely resemble what actually happened.
I wouldn't want Frank to steal his battery.
Well, it wasn't about stealing or not stealing. They threw that entirely out. It's about, people say this is this is an annotation. Okay,
Right.
I get that. But what we saw was nowhere near what was in the game in any way, shape, or form either. It was completely changed.
I'm good with it. I mean, I walked away from this episode all the way to the end. I was uneasy. And I made like peace with the episode because I really like Bill as a character, right? I really like the ingenuity, the Renaissance man of Bill, the protector of Bill, that get it done, dude. I really like Bill. And then I really like Frank, because Frank was as genuine as he was when he was in that ditch. You know, and he was there for Bill. And he put a shine to Bill's world.
I feel you. I just, to me, it's like,
Well,
I felt they could have did both. I really do, truly genuine felt that they could have gave this scene in all its integrity, but
Right.
still give me the stuff that happened in the town. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Did we get to know Frank in the game?
No. Well, he was mentioned, but he was never
Okay.
you never actually seen him
All right.
until you found his dead body.
Let me ask you this again. Did this give you a better context of Bill and Frank's relationship?
Yeah, it did a good job. But see, that's not my issue.
Right.
My
You
issue
just wanted
isn't
to
that.
make sure that it plays the game 1-1.
They could have back the door. They could have easily have done all of this. It's just, I feel like if you want to go and expand this that's going on, you know, Bill and Frank's love life and Bill and Frank's entire journey together, that's fine. But I feel like killing Bill at the end is where I draw the line, because it's just like, this wasn't an important character of the overall story of Last of Us, but it was a stepping stone that led to the events that happened with The Last of Us. There's a lot of good dialogue that happened. To me, if I would have had my way, Frank would have pretty much like, look, I don't want you to do that. We still have people here that rely on you. You need to be there for them. And I would have liked him to have lived, and he'd be that hate.
If I got to take my wife out, my behind is following right behind her.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that. But to me, I would have loved it because it would have shown why Bill is angry like Bill is.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you this. The Last of Us 2 was more progressive in a lot of its takes and took a lot of heat. And maybe this scene was in Last of Us 1, but the times was too early before to have those scenes in that game. And I know the DLC came later where Ellie came out in the game because I never played those DLCs, and I'm a fraud for that. And
Left
I'm
Behind.
gonna get
Yeah,
into that
Left
because I got
Behind.
it. But during that period of time, I think Neil took out that part because I think he wanted to tell this story. And I can't wait to get Neil on Lords of Game. I mean, Iron Lords podcast Sundays at 1 p.m. Neil, Mr. Druckmann, if you're watching, baby, I definitely got a bunch of questions for you.
It's like I said, man. I don't think the episode was bad. I just feel like I went into these first 2 episodes. They really sticking real close to the source material, man. They're doing a really good job. And then 3, and it's like 3, like Neil had like a string on the piece of paper that says episode 3, and he's just linging it along. That's all. I mean, we've been going way too long. 2 hours. We close in the shop at this point. Is there anything else you want to say concluding this show episode?
No, we went way over budget.
But we don't normally go this long. It's just there was a lot that we had the DC stuff, we had this stuff.
We James
had
Gunn,
to talk about like
Tyler
3
on.
movies.
We talked about whatchamacallit, You People. We talked about